Colors of Politics in RI on RI Free Radio. Just as the rainbow has many colors, there are multiple opinions and views of the way our state government should be run. Let us be to the point and deliver the truth. It is time to break down the colors of politics.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on Colors of Politics on RI Free Radio. You can find us on Twitter and on Facebook with the @ symbol at Colors of RI. And tonight we are interviewing Sven from District 37, correct? Which is going up against Sosnowski for a Senate seat. Why don't you begin with giving us exactly what District 37 is, where it covers, and a little bit about yourself and your platform to begin.
Thank you. So my name is Sven Soderberg. I'm running for District 37 State Senate, which covers South Kingstown and Block Island. You know, my platform is basically based on supporting small businesses in the state, the 27,000 small businesses that make up our state, returning accountability to politics on Smith Hill, and also to blocking tolls and other decisions that have been made in our legislature that don't actually reflect the voters' best interest.
That's an awesome way to describe. So, what would you say your number one thing? If you had to pick the one thing that you really want to focus on making sure that the people in your district understand is really important and that you're going to fight the hardest.
So what's really important to me, and what you'll see reflected in my decision to run as an independent, is that I'm not for sale. My voice belongs to the voters and the people who are going to elect me to office, and it's not for sale to a party's special interest or to someone trying to look to buy someone out. I strongly believe that before we can really make any progress in the state, we need to return the idea of public servant to politics.
That's a very good point. Excuse me. And one of the things that you had mentioned previous to coming on air that you wanted to discuss was the lovely Senate Bill 2103, deemed the Leaf Law. So,
not that there's much to this law. I also have heard the response from some people that, the enforceability of it's not going to be there. But it's not, to me, that's not the point. The point is that these are legislators that you elected to get a job done, to make your state a better place to live, to help regulate Rhode Island, whether it's through less regulation, more regulation, but to help regulate it in a manner that's going to help it to operate efficiently and to bring our state to the top of the rankings nationally. Instead, we're wasting taxpayers' time and money on things like this, this bill here, which deems it so you can be fined if your neighbors determine your trees or shrubs, as we're coming into fall, to be a nuisance. To me, that's absurd.
Yeah, definitely. Have the bill in front of me stating that you can be fined up to $500 for each offense. So, God forbid your property abuts like 3 or 4 different people, depending on the way that the roads are. Then if you have multiple neighbors coming at you, you can have ridiculous amounts of fines. But the part that I found interesting on this is I don't see where it defines where this money even goes.
No, most likely it's going back to the general fund, and again, if it were to ever actually be enforced, and it would be on a judge to come down with the fine. That being said, I grew up in a rural area of the state where everyone's got trees that hang over each other's lawns, and fall is that time of year where you rake leaves and you see big piles of it in people's lawns, and but it's a community effort, and you see your neighbors out while you're raking, and to suddenly make it a finable offense it just blows my mind that actually got passed and people voted yes to enacting this bill.
Yeah, and it is crazy. I agree with you. And even some of the names on it are somewhat shocking because the people that co-signed it some of them don't usually sign on to frivolous bills as this. So that one is definitely an out of the ballpark one, but gives an example as to many different random I guess I'll label it useless bills that do go through our state house. And I don't know how often you personally have gone up to testify on bills, or when in the state house, when you look at the bulletin board and you have the sheets and you have each different committee is listening to approximately 8 bills per day per committee. Like, there's just an unreal amount.
Yeah, and I think it's our responsibility, one is voters to call for accountability on this, but also as legislators to answer the question, are we doing right by the people of our district, of our state? Because, although you may get elected in one district, your votes on certain matters are going to affect people all over Rhode Island. And if you're not sitting there saying, yes, I was able to do my due diligence and go through this bill and understand what I'm voting on, to me it's not an excuse to be able to go back later and say, you know what, I didn't really know too much about it and there's so many bills in front of me. If that's the case, you need to slow the process down and say, look, we're not going to just pass bills to get through the workday here.
You're so right. And actually was just information that come out from the Watchdog Rhode Island group that the bills that go through committee, like 99.4% of them are yes, and there's only like 0.6% of bills in committee that are even voted no, because if it comes up for a vote, it's apparently already decided yes. Otherwise, they hold the bill for further study, and then it just never comes up for a vote. So it's like it's predetermined. If it's going to be voted, then it's going to pass to the floor. And so there's a lot of aspects about the process that should probably be addressed.
Absolutely. I think, as a state, too, we need to buck this idea of, well, that's how it's done here. We dictate how it's done here. We, the people, can dictate how it's done here. And only through action and being involved are we going to change it to a process that's acceptable and that's palatable to us as voters.
Very well stated. And that's exactly what we need to do on lots of levels, as far as not just with legislators, reps, and senators at the State House, but also the local levels, and making sure people are involved. I know I personally have advised some people that I'm friends with that are like, yeah, I don't do presidential. I'm not following that. I'm not voting. And to enlighten them to the fact, well, you can vote for your local representatives, your town council, your school committee, etc. And there's people out there that don't realize you can vote for those and opt out of the presidential voting. And so to the listeners, if you're hearing us, you do not have to vote for every single spot on that ticket. You do have the ability to only choose for the things that represent your town.
No, you do have the ability to only choose for things that represent your town, and I would highly encourage anyone to not let the notion that you're not familiar with everyone on the ballot prevent you from going out and voting for those who you are familiar with. That being said, we are in the information age, so to speak, and I think it's worth your time to put in. I understand time's hard to come by. I find myself spread in many directions, but I think it's worth the time to make the time to research some of the names that are on the bill and keep yourself informed, because my thought on that is, if you elect to to not cast a vote, you're really adding to the power of those voting, so to speak. So your silent vote decreases the overall total and will increase kind of the percentage effect that a single vote has. So if you can find that time, I do believe it's really important. It also gives you the right to say, hey, look, I am taking an active part in my community, my state, my country.
Yeah, and there is the mail-in voters ballot too. So if somebody's going on vacation or with their work schedule and they already know there's no way that they can vote on that day, I want to say October 10th or 11th is the last day for the mail-in ballot. That would count. So you actually would be voting about a month before the actual vote. But that is an option to also be able to do out there. And if you're just tuning in, this is Colors of Politics on RI Free Radio. And we're speaking with Sven up against Sosnowski on District 37, covering Block Island and South Kingstown. And so what are your first thoughts on the 7409, the roadworks bill? What's your main point on that one?
So my main point on that one, what I want everyone to understand is that I am not against improving and updating our infrastructure. As a resident of the state, a longtime resident of the state, and I do have the opportunity to travel all over our state. Our infrastructure needs help. You may have even seen recently on Facebook photos of the 610 connector, some supports being held together with ratchet straps. No one's debating that our infrastructure is poorly maintained, but I think that right there is what we need to latch onto. It's poorly maintained. Why are we going to give the people who let it get to this state more money to fix what they've already had the funds to fix? Because they let it get to this dilapidated state, we're now going to allow them to impose tolls on truckers across the state, which will eventually lead to your personal vehicles. And we can come to that conclusion because we've already heard testimony from the truckers saying that they will take it to Supreme Court and they're going to challenge it, and they're going to get basically where it's a widespread toll based on discrimination. So are we really going to give the people who let the roads get to the state more money, in the first place?
Yeah, and I'm just going to read for anybody that doesn't understand the beginning statement on this H7409 is pretty powerful sentences. It actually says powers of authority for the Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority, which I believe they already have this, but I never bothered to actually see exactly how it was worded. That they get to adopt bylaws for the regulation of the affairs and conduct of its business, to adopt an official seal and alter it as its pleasure, to maintain an office at such place within the state as it may designate, to sue and be sued in its own name, plead and be impleaded provided, to determine, subject to the approval of the Director of Transportation, to the location and design standards of the Newport Bridge, the Turnpike, and any additional new facility, to issue bonds of the authority for any of its purposes and to refund its bonds, all as provided in this chapter. And one other point, number 10, says to acquire, hold, and dispose of real and personal property in the exercise of its powers and the performances of its duties, to acquire in the name of the authority by purchase or otherwise, on such terms and conditions and in such manner as it may deem proper, or by the exercise of the rights of the condemnation in the manner as provided by this chapter, public or private lands, including public parks, playgrounds, or reservations, or any parts thereof. In carrying out the powers granted in this chapter shall be so there you go, that's a lot of power for one organization, and there's nothing in this that says they have to go back through the legislation to approve any of that or to get, they literally have the power of authority. And what really bothers me is the public or private lands section of that. So they have the authority to make these changes regarding bridges and roadworks that have to do with leading up to bridges. And that's serious. Your property is anywhere near there, and they can just be like, yep, this is what we're going to do, and they don't have to go through legislation. They can make you do it. Now, I understand there's already eminent domain and all of those kinds of things, but that seems like an awful lot of unquestioned power for one authority.
What the main part that concerns me about the whole tolls process is that, I'm not a lawyer. There's a lot of language in here that, I could probably use assistance digesting. That being said, just when you break it down to the basic thought of we are going to toll trucks and tell you that we're only tolling trucks, and it's not going to affect you, don't worry about it. As a local small business owner, I know a lot of our products come in via trucks. I know a lot of other companies and businesses' products come in via trucks, and if the cost of shipping goes up, that cost of good goes up, that the purchase price of that item is going to go up. And so that being said, your entire cost of living will be affected if you start tolling our trucks. It doesn't make sense to me, just on a common sense level, that we're going to somehow improve your quality of life by making life here more expensive for you. And really, that's what strikes a tone with me, because I've already seen a lot of my friends who graduated from college recently have to move out of state because they're not able to find jobs in the economy in Rhode Island. We're looking at very, very recently getting ranked last by both CNBC and Forbes for business-friendly environments. That's not the tone we want to set in this state, especially not in the economy we're in.
Yeah, we're like 49th or something like that. We're pretty much the bottom. The primary just last week, actually, with those that signed on to this bill, Carnivale is no longer up there, and DeSimone, if I didn't murder that name, is just lost his primaries. So there's two names that aren't.
Yeah, I mean, Carnivale, I don't think, to anyone who's been following politics in the state recently, I don't think that's really a surprise to anyone. That being said, I would like to touch upon that, and that the precedence has been set, that Rhode Island politics are corrupt, and not only are they corrupt, it's accepted. And we as voters need to change that outlook, and that we need to make politicians accountable. We need to hold our attention spans for the full 2 years. If they do something at the beginning of their term that they need to answer for come next election, we need to hold our attention that long and make them answer for that. Once we start doing that, we'll really see a collective change in the state and how we as voters are treated. Carnivale, to fill anyone in, was I believe reporting that he was living in a district not other than the one he was actually living in. There's an investigation that went on with that.
And he lost.
Some comical times. T-shirts wrapped around heads for everyone.
Yes, and he lost his appeal.
He did, and I commend the voters for holding him accountable, and I look forward to seeing that in other districts this year come November.
Yes, and they are already the primaries. There was 6 incumbents that lost their seat from the primaries, so that was definitely a shock, considering the history of Rhode Island with the voting, and to actually see the voters get out there and make a difference.
Yeah, it's let's call it a pleasant surprise and look forward to more.
Definitely. And that's on the same point that I was talking about, paying attention to your local politics. And I mean, yes, representatives and senators, and they make the most impactful difference, being that they vote at the state house for things like you referenced that affect the whole state, not just the district that they represent, but also your town hall people and your school committee people are affecting your daily lives with what directly affects your town. So definitely everybody should be getting out there. And if you're not registered to vote, register to vote. You can do that at vote.sos.ri.gov. Rhode Island now has the ability to do it online. And you have to be registered to vote at least 30 days before you intend on voting. So do that now so you can vote in the general election on November 8th. And we have some awesome options, I'll call it. We have lots of great people out there, some great ones that are already in there, and wonderful people that are challenging. So what are you enjoying the most about the campaign and challenging Sosnowski?
I'm enjoying meeting the people and listening to to their views and their ideas. We have some really, really creative people throughout the state and some ideas that need to be heard. But just meeting people in general, hearing their life story, and meeting more people. And I'm running in the town I grew up in, and meeting more people from the community that I've met previously and get to learn more about, or new people that I haven't met before, and now I know them and I can say hi to them on a daily basis. That to me is the enjoyable part.
And what do you find knocking on doors, and what do you find that they bring to your attention? What seems to be the number one premise of the people in your town?
Honestly, the number one issue I think this year is that people are fed up. They are fed up with incumbents. They don't want to hear that you've been up there, for longer than what they consider acceptable. I think term limits are a very real thing that are going to come up shortly. Hopefully in the next few years. I also find that people they're not happy with tolls, and you can see that from the get-go. Especially down in my district, the town councils of Narragansett and South Kingstown, and I know it's not part of my district, but if you're from down there, Narragansett and South Kingstown tend to work fairly hand in hand. They're very cooperative communities. Both of them made suggestions that they wanted to vote for no on tolls, and they were basically ignored along with the rest of the community down there.
Yeah.
Another thing that did come up somewhat is the legislative grants, and it, as you guys saw, it was kind of a flash in the pot this year where it came up and kind of got squashed really quickly. But I think that's something that needs a bit more attention, and that when we're all feeling the effects of a down economy, we're all feeling the effects at home in our wallets and in our savings. It doesn't sit well with people that their tax money is being spent at the leisure of legislators.
And the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate, speaking of legislative grants, both showed that the highest dollar amount of grants went to the two communities of the two top leaders at the State House. So that also implies some favoritism going on.
Absolutely. I mean, the process, in my opinion, just isn't, it doesn't sit well with anyone. I from what I understand, from what I've researched, it's unconstitutional and needs to be challenged. Just the idea of handing out these grants to, for good behavior, so to speak, and voting with their special interest shouldn't sit well with voters. And, if we want to change that, we need to hold people accountable come November.
Definitely. And we hear through the grapevine that there will hopefully be a debate happening between you and Sosnowski, although there isn't a date or specifics, really anything worked out yet, but it's up in the air. What are your thoughts in regards to that? I'm sure you're up for the debate.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it. I would welcome that. I'm always open for a conversation, one between candidates, but also between candidates and voters, and let's let the issues come out then and be, get our full attention.
Let the people that reside make the choice based on what they hear, definitely. And that's the whole point of a debate, so hopefully that will definitely go through and be finalized and that kind of stuff. And it's next weekend, right, that you have a fundraiser coming up? Or
It's thanks for asking. It's going to be September 28th. It's a Wednesday. It's going to be at the Muse Tavern in South Kingstown from 5:30 to 7:30. And if you have any questions for me, if you'd like to just meet me and talk a bit, please come on down. I'd be happy to have you there.
And is it just opened, or are you having, I know some of the legislators are having comedians and some are just having open time. Is there, what are the details? What do people get to look forward to besides just meeting you? The Muse is pretty awesome, however.
The Muse is a great spot. It's a great local business. It's been a staple of the community down there, and it's really grown and become a massive success story, along with a lot of other great businesses we have down there. We have some great restaurants. Recently, South Kingstown's been celebrating success of Whalers Brewing, actually. They're getting nationally recognized, and Sons of Liberty whiskey distilleries getting international awards, I believe. So we really have a thriving group down there, despite all the regulations and the business
ranking
environment.
49th.
The business environment that Rhode Island's been tagged with. So hopefully we can turn around and encourage even further growth with them. But no, it will be me, and conversation, open to questioning. I'm gonna have my yard signs down there, stickers, which are always good.
Stickers, everybody loves stickers.
I look forward to seeing. We've got a lot of people signed up already. I look forward to meeting more.
And anybody that's not able to attend but wants to help in your fight, how do they donate to you? What do they do?
Absolutely. You can send checks to Friends of Sven Soderberg at 130 Pearls Way in Wakefield, Rhode Island, 02879. Or you can feel free to check out my website at risenate.com. And you can also find me on Facebook at Sven Soderberg for Senate District 37.
So it's risenate.com?
I was actually able to grab risenate.com. But
I wasn't sure if I heard that right. I was like,
right?
That was available?
Yeah. Best $12 I've spent.
That's awesome.
That being said, I also have a couple other ones. There's SvenSoderberg.com. There's also thesvenator.com. So you can check that out too.
Did they all lead to the same
They do. They all lead to the same one, where you're able to learn a bit about me, my platform. You can reach out to me through my website, through Facebook. There's my cell phone number is also posted on Facebook. There's a call now button, and also on my website, and I do field calls from people. I'm more than happy to answer. You can also send me emails at svensenate@gmail.com.
Okay, and why don't we spell that one out?
Yeah, there we go. So it's SVEN, Senate, SENATE, @gmail.com. And the website you can find through a variety of them. That other one that you guys heard and probably ticked your ears up was The Svenator, TheSvenator.com.
That's pretty creative.
We had a good time with that one.
That's good. And so, is there any last couple of points, or even if you want to touch on roadworks or any other particular point that you want to make sure the listeners know based on your platform and a message that you want to get to them before we close up?
Absolutely. I would encourage everyone to stay involved, and it does matter. I know we've had a rough year with politics as far as the entire Bernie Sanders movement got snubbed at the DNC, and that was a very interesting time to be in politics, but don't let it discourage you. Drive on, and by coming together is the only way you're going to see meaningful change.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of the whole situation, I mean, on the presidential level, not only did Bernie won Rhode Island as far as the amount of votes that he got, but he exposed through his campaign a lot of different things, actually, within the whole system and the whole way it works. And so I think his running, whether I did or didn't agree with different points of his platform, I think his running brought a lot of things to the surface that were beneficial for the public to learn and know that is happening. Absolutely.
And I don't want anyone out there to think that I was a Bernie Sanders guy or anything like that. That being said, what I don't like, what I really do feel for people that were in his camp, is the unfairness of what happened with that. And what I'm hoping is that that didn't discourage any of you for coming out on election day, that you all stick together, stay involved with your local communities for sure. Do some more research, maybe come up with a different candidate that you support, but definitely stay involved.
It's exactly a great ending comment. Stay involved. Get out and vote November 8th, or get out and register to vote. Thank you for listening. Colors of Politics on RI Free Radio. Find us at Colors of RI on Facebook and Twitter.